Sound, Mind, and Body is brought to you in part by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/inbound. You'll find over 180,000 titles to choose from and to listen to through your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound.
Hello and welcome to Sound, Mind, and Body, a podcast where we talk about how to be healthy, balanced, and well of mind, body, and spirit in today's crazy world with a dash of woo-woo. Today, my guest is a very special person, and I love him very much. Today's guest is my son, Michael. Welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. I finally made it.
So this is the start of your podcast is released on what I'm calling the Meet the Millennials weekend. And we have also talked to your friend Jesse Kavanaugh and your friend Chris Whitehall. Awesome. So check for those episodes too. But I wanted to start with my son Michael and kind of interview him and introduce you to him. So we grew up, well, I guess we did grow up together. I was a very young mom, and I was also a single mom. So,
yeah, I've known you since, I was like 0.
You've known me since before you were born.
Yeah.
Oh, God. No, you've been a very blessing, and I really believe that we choose our parents, so thank you for choosing me as your mom.
Thank you for choosing me. Thanks. I'm glad it all happened. I'm blessed to have you as my mom.
Oh, thank you, honey. Well, I want to talk a little bit briefly about. Do you remember any of the stuff I used to do when you were younger? You were like little. I remember I had a crystal that you wore a crystal when you went to kindergarten.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember the crystal.
And you had long hair. You looked kind of like a girl, but you had like long blonde hair. And everybody used to think that my hair was natural because I had, I colored my hair. I have brunette hair normally. And everybody thought mine was natural because yours was naturally blonde. It looked just like mine.
Yeah, it looked like your daughter.
You did. Yes, you were like this gorgeous little.
This is Michael.
It's
like,
so
oh my
funny.
God.
You used to look exactly like me, and then as you got older, you started to look more like your dad.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but it's anyway. I used to do have sage, and I used to light the sage and encircle you with the sage smoke to protect you from negativity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely remember like when I was probably in elementary school or somewhere around then. Getting my first sage.
You remember that? I was encircling you with the smoke.
Yeah. I was you're like, this is to get the evil spirits or, to kind of cleanse. I don't remember what it was, but I just thought I thought it was cool, but I didn't really understand it.
Yeah. You didn't think much of it.
No, I was just my mom is, I trust
crazy.
That what she's doing is probably a good thing.
Oh my God. And then when you got into middle school, your girl, the friends of yours that were girls used to I would sage them and they'd come to the house. Will you sage me?
Yeah.
Will you sage me? And I would do it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, their parents probably thought I was nuts if they told them.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. But all I know is they loved it though. I mean, I would always bring, I definitely had more girlfriends. It's probably because I was raised by a single mom, but they always loved coming over. They loved hanging out with you. All my friends all love you and
I love you all your
but it's been
too.
a consistent thing. And so even though you were saging them, they were just wow, this is so cool. This is so different. You know, a lot of parents are not really doing that.
Well,
you know what I mean? So they're like, this
I
is
know, I'm
unique
thinking
and
about it
weird.
now,
And like,
yeah.
oh, like this gets rid of like evil spirits.
Your mom's
and
a crazy
cleansing.
person.
Yeah.
No. But now your friends are doing the same things I was doing when I was your age.
Yeah, I guess it's become mainstream now.
You think? I don't know. I guess it was mainstream for me, a lot of the people I was hanging out with. So
Yeah.
it just depends on
Maybe not mainstream. I
what
don't know.
kind of like people you're hanging out with,
Yeah.
I guess, and what they believe. You know, when you're younger, I think you're kind of defining what you believe.
Right.
You know, but
Well, a lot of times when you're younger, you don't really, you might not even really know what you believe yet.
well, you don't.
Yeah, you don't. You're
You
just
know.
kind of like, you're probably getting influenced by other people. You know, like you saging my friends maybe influence them later in life to
To go to Burning Man.
I don't know. Yeah, you never know. Go to Burning Man, or maybe they light incense now in their house.
Yeah.
You know, who knows?
I always lit incense. I started doing yoga. I actually didn't start doing yoga until I was 40,
Wow.
which seems strange, but I didn't.
I always felt like you were doing yoga all the time.
I know. I was like, I was doing other things. You know, I'd always exercised.
I like assumed you were like a yoga master when I was younger.
I didn't start until I was 40.
I didn't even know anything about like that kind of like working out. or
Well, see,
anything.
you started before I did. Now you're starting to do yoga just this past year. You started to do yoga, and I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, I love yoga.
What do you love about yoga?
I love that it's I mean, I love the place that I go to. Like it's like this certain place in West Hollywood, but it has like,
What's it called?
it's called Aura Yoga.
Oh, okay.
It kind of like you're like enclosed in this like, I think of it as like a pod,
Yeah.
and then it's just filled with all these LEDs.
Right.
And then as you progress through the session, it's like the LEDs change from like blue to
That
deep
sounds
red
really
or
cool.
purple. And then it's like a mixture of like fast-paced yoga and it's kind of slow too. So it's a mixture of working really hard and then also relaxing and like coming into yourself and breathing and all that.
Right.
So I like it a lot because, you know, nowadays my stress level is a lot higher and also I've been sitting down in a chair for like my whole life, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I've done some workouts, but nothing like that. Nothing like stretching my body and moving it in all these different ways. So it really like releases a lot of things I hold in, like anxiety or stress or whatever. It just
Yeah.
kind of takes it all out, and then when you're done, it releases it, and it feels really intense. And then after I walk out, I'm just like, you know,
Yeah.
it just feels so good.
Yeah.
It's almost like a drug.
I got to start again. I feel like I don't have time to do yoga anymore.
Yeah, I've had to make time for it because of how busy I am.
Yeah.
And like how much stress I'm putting on my body. If I don't move or if I don't do something like that for myself, it would just be really, I feel like it would be really hard for me to be like, you know, a normal person or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your work. So when you didn't go to college. When you
Nope.
got out of high school, you were just like, I'm free. I don't want to go to college. I don't have any specific thing I want to follow. And
Yeah, I hated school.
you went right to, I know, I just kind of recently found that out. I knew that it was, you know,
Well, I liked
difficult getting you through school, like making you do the bare minimum.
Yeah, I liked going.
You were good, but you just didn't like it.
Yeah, I liked going to school because of like the social aspect and meeting people and all that stuff, but I didn't like, you know, homework or, you know, these things like tasks that didn't apply to my life or like what I was interested in.
Right.
You know? So it was
Yeah.
very like, I just hated it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to be like, oh, I got to do like math homework tonight. I was like, screw that.
I know. Well, I'm sure a lot of kids feel that way.
Yeah. And
But
so
you just didn't want to, you just got through it and you didn't have any specific, like, you know, like drive to go to college. And I didn't push you to go to college because
well, one, it's expensive.
it's expensive. And I also felt like if you don't feel like you have
Like, if you don't know what you want to do.
A clear thing, it's...
Which is like almost all millennials and kids nowadays. It's like they think they think they know what they want to do, and then they go and get this
totally
huge
different.
They get this huge loan, and then all of a sudden they stop school, and then they don't even want to do what they just.
They don't want to do what they just got in debt for $100,000.
Exactly.
For. I mean, some of these kids, I think it's terrible, the student debt these days. It's just like outrageous.
I'm glad I don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one good thing. But you went straight to work, and you went to work at. We happen to live by a gaming, video game like. Testing a facility called THQ.
It was quality assurance testing.
And so you got right into that right after school, and you could wear your T-shirt and jeans and just go and basically test video games. And so you started doing that right out of high school. And you did that for I don't know,
it was about
5 years?
3 or 4 years.
Yeah, because you went to work to a THQ, and then you went to 2K.
Yeah.
Right? And then you took a brief interim.
I tried to explore and do something that I was like, oh, I really like finding new music. Maybe I could do A&R or something.
Right. And you worked there was a studio
right
literally
down the street.
half a block away from us. And they were starting a new record label there, and you worked there for a brief period of time, but that didn't work out. So you were like, well, I guess I'll go back to what I know and what I have experience in, which is QA, QA testing. So you found a job, I remember, on Craigslist, right?
I think you found it.
Did I find it?
I think you were the one that were like, oh, I found this one.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting because it was home entertainment.
Right.
It wasn't video game testing.
Yeah.
And
it was when Blu-ray DVDs were just coming out.
Well, they're just Blu-rays.
Well, just Blu-rays,
yeah.
So they were just coming out, and it was a brand new company, and you were the very first employee, right?
Yeah, I was the very first hire, first tester. They only had 3 or 4 employees, the CEO, the CTO, and then a couple office people that were trying to get business in. It was very new. It was maybe 6 months old or something, or maybe 6 months to a year. It was something like that.
It was called really, Blue Focus.
Yeah, it's called Blue Focus. Yeah, I mean, I came in there. It was just like every job that I went in there. I did the interview, and every time I killed it. So I got that on the spot. On the meeting, they were like, "Oh, you're great!" Because I already had experience.
Yeah,
and they were also looking for video game testers,
right?
Because it was they were trying to kind of disrupt it a little bit,
right?
Because there was other testing facilities that did DVD testing and Blu-ray, but they got the testers that worked there were people that only have worked in DVD or Blu-ray or home entertainment,
right?
So they were we kind of wanted to go outside the box and get video game testers because how video game testers, it's a different way of testing.
Yeah.
Because
looking the functionality of it or how it's...
Yeah, it's not only that, but it's also thinking outside the box. There was always an example. I remember when I first got hired at the gaming, THQ, they were if it's a racing game, you race on the track, right? You go around, you're on. But if you're when you're a tester, you have to think about, what if I go backwards on the track and I do the wrong thing?
What's going to happen?
Exactly. So that was I mean, as funny as it is, so I ended up doing Blue Focus for 8 years.
8 years, and you really grew.
20s. Yeah. You
grew at that company, though.
I know.
I met your bosses, and they were like, "Oh my God, we feel like Mike grew up with us," because you were this kid basically when you started, and then as they grew as a company, you grew with them. You were the senior guy there, and then you ended up being a manager of a team, and you also basically wrote their testing protocols for the new testers. How do you test the testers, right?
Yeah.
And what are they supposed to look for, and what are they supposed to do, and then how do you test when that tester can move up? Mm-hmm. You wrote that.
Like
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when you wrote that. I was like, Michael, do you realize that you never get an opportunity like this with a large corporation because it's already done, you know? So you were able to do that. It was a great experience. And then you became a manager of a team.
Yeah.
And then you were like, wait, I'm not satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I did to sum it up really quickly, it was like I got into Blue Focus at like 22 years old. I still had the same tendencies of like a 22-year-old until I was like 25. I had lots of fun. I barely showed up. I was late all the time, but whenever I would show up, I would just I was the best.
You would kill it.
I would always be the best.
Yeah.
And so they never fired me. They could have easily fired me.
Yeah.
They kept me around. And then it got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I changed my state of mind. I used to be very like I deserve this, you know, which is a lot of millennials in this day and age. I think like when you're at a bigger job or you kind of get stuck in this like routine, and a lot of people don't understand that you need to kind of like be open and also ask, like be open to new opportunities, ask for new opportunities, and then also like
give a little bit.
Yeah.
Give a little bit in order to for them to say, okay, why should I promote you? Why should I?
Yeah,
you know?
and before it was like, I mean, I was there for 8 years. It could have, even though I learned so much and I became a manager, I could have became a manager like 3 or 4 years in.
Yeah.
But the reason why it took me about 5 years is because
you were just having fun.
I was being lazy, and it was a good job, and I was having fun. Didn't have to put too much effort into it, and then one day, like I remember, it was like because there was a morning shift, and then there was also an evening shift, and one day I decided that I just could not do mornings.
Yeah,
it was just too early. I just couldn't do it.
Right,
and so I switched to the evening, and that changed everything.
It did.
Yeah,
okay.
That's how I became a manager. That's how, like, everything happened because of that. It changed. Yeah, it changed the whole course.
You're a night person.
Yeah,
you're not really a morning.
I just looked at it and I was like, you know what? I'm doing terrible with these days. I'm late all the time. I'm gonna get like written up like for the second time or third time. And all of the bosses loved me. They knew I was so talented and they were great.
Yeah.
But I just never applied myself.
Right.
And so I remember when I made that decision of like, all right, I'm going to go to evening. And at that moment, I remember I decided that I didn't want to like just sit there and like just wait for opportunities to come to me, because I felt like even though I was working hard and doing good, things don't just come to you.
Right. Yes.
So
true.
You have to go out and ask for it, or say yes, right? So I kept. So the big thing, yes. So for me, it was I changed my mindset. I was like, even though this is not like the job of my dreams, right?
Yeah.
And I was always like searching for like a creative outlet, and that job didn't give it to me. It was just a very like steady job.
Yeah.
I just decided to change my mindset. Like, I'm going to always say yes.
And look at the opportunities.
Yeah. Anytime they were like, hey, Mike, like, I need your help, I'm going to be like, yes, like, let me come help you. And then anytime I just felt like I wanted to, I'd go up to the CEO and be like, hey, can I help you with, ask them if they need help.
How can I help more?
Yeah. And even those little simple things started to get me more and more. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we want you to be a manager. We want you to do this. We want you. And then I got more creative with it.
Right.
Because all of a sudden that's how I started doing the checklists and the evaluations. And that's where I was starting to put a little bit of my creativity into the business.
Right.
And I was a very unique asset for them, because no one like had that kind of outside the box creative mind like me.
Yeah.
So it was good. Yeah.
And then you decided that you wanted to do a little bit something more creative, right?
Yeah, so everything kind of shifted in a big way. When I was about, was it like 28? 27, 28?
27, 28, I guess.
And basically I was living with one of my best friends, Mason, and he started a company called King Tide with his friend Jordan, which I kind of knew as like an acquaintance. And so I was living with him, and I was still working at the old job. And then about a year into living with him, we were planning to go to Burning Man together. Me, Mason, Jesse, and a few other friends. And to be honest, I just needed some like extra cash.
Yeah, right.
I just needed a little, because Burning Man could be expensive, and we were living on our own. And so I just went up to Mason, and I already helped him out with a clothing brand a little bit. So I was getting a little creative with marketing, which I had no idea how to do. I just kind of like started doing it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of working. And that's how Jordan kind of like saw like, oh, Mike might be someone to look into.
Yeah.
And then I just asked Mason, I was like, hey, like, could I help at King Tide? Do you guys need any help there? Like anything. Like
Right.
I'm down to come in there and see if I could do anything.
Right, because you wanted extra money.
I wanted a little bit of extra money,
For Burning Man.
and I also liked what they were doing.
Right, they're doing like branding, advertising,
Yeah, and I went into
websites, apps, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I went into I remember I went to a team lunch one time, and because I was kind of helping them with their clothing brand, Cake, which is the sweater you're wearing right now.
I am wearing it right now. Yes.
And they had me come in, and then I saw like this whole like, it was such a different vibe to me, because
Yeah.
I was so used to this like stale and grim and dark office of like these testers like in their cubicles, and
Yeah.
everyone's just like meh,
Yeah.
And I went into there, and it was just like this bright and like, wow, like this is like a creative place.
Everybody's talking about ideas.
Everyone's like collaborating with each other, and like they're like, wow, I got this idea. I don't know. It was like a dream to me. I was like, I've never even been to a job like this.
Yeah.
And I remember on that first team lunch, I was like, I have to work here.
Okay.
I like told myself that. And then that's when I ended up asking Mason. So it was a mixture of like, I liked what I saw and like the feeling that I got.
Yes.
And then also I needed some extra cash.
Yeah.
So I asked Mason. They got me an interview. I remember interviewing it was Mason, Jordan, and Michelle.
Right, who is like your mentor.
Yeah, and they were looking for someone to help with marketing, because it was just Michelle pretty much, and two other girls, but they were doing mostly social media. She was doing mostly like digital marketing, like Facebook advertising, stuff like that. And I always remember being in the interview room.
Yeah.
And like Michelle, like looking at me, like basically being like, oh God, like it's another one of Mason and Jordan's friends, like, and they're trying to help him out, like get a job kind of thing.
Yeah.
I could tell she was a little worried. But, I got the job, and all it was, like, this is like the journey that ended up changing my life, basically. So I got the job, and it was basically learning, like, it was digital marketing. It was advertising.
Right.
I had no idea. I had no like experience at all.
Right.
Nothing. I just kind of went in like head first, but it was like my first time ever being in a job that would be creative.
Yeah.
And I just told myself, I remember when I got it, I was like, I'm just going to give this one full year of dedication.
But you only had, it was only 4 hours a day.
Yeah, so
in the beginning, and you were still working at Blue Focus.
Yeah, so they couldn't afford to pay me enough, right? So I had to like work with it.
Yeah.
And
so you did 2 jobs.
So I did 2 jobs, but I told myself 1 full year of dedication. Mm-hmm. And what that was literally, I worked 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Yep.
I worked 4 hours at King Tide. Mm-hmm. It was 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. I would leave King Tide and then go straight to my other job, which started at 3:30 p.m.
Yep.
And then would end at midnight.
Yep. I remember.
And I did that for a full year.
Yes.
Still to this day, I have no idea how I did that. Because I remember after the fact, like trying to do that like a couple times, and I was just so tired. But when I look at it again, I'm like, it's because I was like dedicated. Like I was like,
committed.
I had a purpose or something, you know, like I was
and
like.
then you also would work on weekends sometimes when they had like, you know, like deadlines at Blue Focus. You would work weekends and days in a row, like weeks in a row. Yeah,
that year was definitely like the birth of anxiety.
So you were able to, after a year, you transitioned to King Tide full-time, and then you still kept your Blue Focus job for another like 6 to 9 months.
Well, what was
part-time?
Right? What was crazy is, like, I remember like how I said I would give 1 year full dedication. I literally got a full-time offer like exactly 1 year.
See, I feel like that's intention. No, it's not crazy. It's like what you create and you visualize and you make it happen. Yeah. I do believe in that. You know?
Yeah, and it was like I wanted it.
You just knew. You knew what you wanted. That's part of the problem is you got to know what you want.
Yeah, it was the biggest that's why I said it changed my life, because I've never committed for so long on something.
Right.
Like that long. I mean, definitely in a relationship, like, but never with like a career or a job or whatever, anything like that. Because I never had an opportunity to like do something creative for a job.
Yeah. And then you just, so now you switched over, and then you were still holding on to Blue Focus because of, you know, you were being very practical about it. I was very proud of you. And then you finally let go of Blue Focus like about a year ago. And since then, with King Tide, you have risen. Now you are a project manager. Now you're one of the top, like,
I'm helping build a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're in the executive meetings. Now you're going for business travel. You just went to Mexico City, and you're going to be doing all that. And so where do you go from here? Where do you go from here?
I mean, right now the goal is to, like, I've gotten this like amazing opportunity to build a business with a bunch of people that I really love. It's like a really small team, but they're super
great.
cool.
I mean, you're great. It's such a great organization.
You know, I feel like it's just like a dream job. I mean, it's so hard.
But
it's such a grind, but we are able to create anything we want. And that's such a blessing. You know, like I never thought I would get an opportunity like this. So it's very like anything can happen. Yeah. And all it takes is me just being fully dedicated and fully immersed in like our vision.
But you're all like focused on that company. It's like such a great group of people, and they're doing it right. You know, it's just like you are creating it together. Yep.
Yeah, and it's very fun. Yeah. It's fun, it's hard, it's like it's everything you want it to be, like if you're building a business. Right. But you get to do it with like your best friends.
I love it. You're so lucky. I love it. I love that you're doing that, Michael. I'm very proud of you. Yeah. And, well, okay, so now we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you the questions, the sound, mind, and body questions. Uh-oh. On the next episode of Sound, Mind, and Body, we continue with the Meet the Millennials series and talk to my son Michael's good friend, Jesse Kavanaugh.
I think that we as a society, we fear death, and it's actually a really beautiful thing if you think about it from that positive place. It's a soul's journey. Yeah, exactly. It's a cycle. You know, something is ending and there's something that's about to be beginning as well.
That's the next episode on Sound, Mind, and Body.
Hey, it's Tim Edwards with the Inbound Podcasting Network and producer of Sound, Mind, and Body. Just the fact that you're listening to the Sound, Mind, and Body podcast tells us that you enjoy consuming your content through your ears. Now, if you're a podcast listener, you're a perfect fit to enjoy audiobooks. So for you, our listeners and official members of Sheila's woo-woo community, Audible is offering you a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their awesome service. Look, I'll be honest, I hate reading, always have. I'm a very slow reader, and I don't have the time to just sit down and read a book. So, like you, I've always loved consuming my content through listening. I've been an Audible customer for several years, and as a result, on average, consume about 20 to 25 books a year. In other podcasts the Inbound Podcasting Network produces, we've interviewed authors like Dr. Martin Gabala, who penned The 1 Minute Workout, and Dr. Sylvia Tara, who wrote The Secret Life of Fat. Both are very informative for those who are looking to get in shape and to stay in shape, and both are available with Audible. Give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose. It's absolutely free for 30 days, and you get a free audiobook to keep even if you don't continue with the subscription. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound. That's audibletrial.com/inbound. We'll include a link in the show notes, or just click the Audible banner at soundmindbodypodcast.com.
Okay, we're back, and we're talking to Michael Melody.
That's me.
And now I'm going to ask you the questions I ask everybody in my podcast.
So excited.
You better be. Okay, so what's a favorite sound?
I would say the fan. I love sleeping with the fan. I love white noise.
That's definitely a family thing.
I definitely got that from you.
That was my favorite sound, too.
It's literally the only way I can sleep, like, great. I have to have a fan on, some sort of sound.
Well, you're the one that found the app, the sleep fan app.
If you guys, if you also are a fan of the fans and you are on vacation, there is an app for that.
Exactly. It's called Sleep Fan.
Yeah, Sleep Fan. I thought I'd like totally typed it in the App Store thing. It was going to be like, there's no way. And then, of course, there's an app for that.
And we used it in hotels when we were like traveling back to Illinois.
Yep.
That's funny. Okay, so what's a favorite memory?
Favorite memory would probably be going to Burning Man for my first time.
Yeah.
With a bunch of my friends. And then I always remember the first, like, getting in there. I was so nervous because I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Why? But you went with a great group of people the first time.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I was just nervous because it was just something I've never really been in the middle of nowhere for like a full week. You know?
Yeah.
Like there's no stores. There's nothing. You have to bring everything. But I knew we were fine. I was still nervous. And then I remember when we got there and then kind of like parked and everything. And then since I was like a newbie.
Yeah.
They were like, we have to take you out to the playa, which is basically like the big openness.
It's like the Black Rock Desert or something, right?
And it's in Nevada, basically.
Right.
And then my favorite memory, though, is basically like my first ride out into the playa. And I was just like, all nerves went away. I was just like, holy crap, like, where am I? Like, I was like, I'm here for a whole week. It was a different planet.
Really?
Yeah, it was insane. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Wow.
So it was, really cool.
So, okay, what's a favorite place?
Downtown Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, I love downtown Chicago. It's one of my favorite cities. I went to New York recently too, but it's downtown Chicago is still my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone.
And I would say Burning Man too.
Yeah. Well, Chicago is very special. But I grew up outside of Chicago, so we go there quite a bit, at least once a year. And we always go downtown, and it's great in the summer. Mm-hmm. It's freezing in the winter, but we mostly go there in the summer or the fall.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so favorite sound, favorite memory, favorite place. Okay, what's the most woo-woo thing you've ever done?
Well, the most woo-woo thing, I'll have to come back to Burning Man.
Yeah.
So my very first time, basically, if no one's familiar with Burning Man, obviously it's a week-long kind of event or place that you go to in the middle of the desert. And it kind of like mimics like a whole year of your life a little bit.
Okay.
It's a really big task to get there. You know, it's your planning, you have to bring all your food and supplies, and you're basically making a home for yourself for a full week.
Right.
And so as the week progresses, you know, Saturday hits and it's like the man burns, and it's basically like New Year's. It's like this big like celebration.
And so the man is like this big giant
It's
wooden
huge.
like man.
Yeah, that's
there.
man built. And,
Somebody built
and then they just blow it up. It's crazy.
They just like set it on fire.
Yeah, it's nuts. And
that's a big giant party. Yep.
And then there's also like a spiritual aspect to the to the whole event. And a part of that is that there's another like sculpture that's built, and it's called it's a temple. Mm-hmm. And the temple is basically like where people can release and write things, leave things there. And, so on Saturday when the man burns, that's like that big fun, like all that stuff. But when the temple burns, it's like quiet.
Wow.
So it's like, I don't even know how many people go there, but I think it's anywhere between like 60,000 to 100,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
So like the night before, it's like insane. And then the last day, it's completely silent.
Wow.
As this temple burns. So
very powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Never experienced anything like that in my life. But so basically on the Saturday, I've been there for, since the Sunday prior to that.
So almost like a week you've been
almost
there.
A week. And then that Saturday before the man burned, I decided that I wanted to go to the temple. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have anything to kind of like
put in
there. There was nothing I wanted to. I didn't have anything.
You didn't have a remembrance.
No,
memorial.
It was like my first time experiencing something like that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really know what to do or what to put in there. And instead of just kind of like not really experiencing it or like being a part of it, mm-hmm. I decided to ride there because you have to use a bike. I rode my bike.
Yeah.
Because it's huge. So I rode my bike to the temple, and my main goal was basically to just like go in there and feel it and
just experience the temple.
Yeah, experience the temple, see what's in there. And it was heavy. Like, yeah. There's everything, there's lots of sad things, there's lots of happy things, there's weird things, probably like people on drugs, like whatever. So
were other people in there?
Yeah,
a lot of people?
Yeah, there was a lot of people in there when I went.
It's big, right? It's like...
Yeah, I mean, it was probably like, I don't know, like a size of a normal apartment building or something. I don't know. It was huge.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, I basically decided I went in there. I wanted to go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I walked through the entire thing, from start to finish. It was like a circle, or I think it was like a pyramid. Mm-hmm. And I read through so many things, nothing that I couldn't even remember. There was just so much stuff in there.
Right.
But the energy in there was just so intense.
Right.
And I always remember after I got to, like, right when I got to the end, mm-hmm. I just started bawling. Like,
did you?
I just lost control. Like, I just was crying, like, so much.
Were there other people in there crying and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was there's definitely a lot of people crying. There's a lot of people meditating,
praying,
like, yeah,
wow.
everything.
Oh my gosh.
And I just remember, I couldn't, it was like uncontrollable, like just sobbing.
Broke down.
And so right when I started crying, I remember there was this random lady, I don't even know, like maybe middle-aged, came up to me and she was like, "Can I give you a hug?" And I was like, in that crying, I was like, yes. And, she gave me a hug and she was like,
wow.
You're supposed to do this. This is like good for you, like to release. And I was like, I know, I'd never cry,
I know. Okay. All the listeners out there, he does not get emotional. So this is like big time. When I heard that you broke down there, it made me cry. When Courtney, your friend Courtney, told me that she's like, Michael had a moment.
Yeah, I had a big moment. And I started crying, and then basically my natural instinct, because I don't really release or cry like that, was like to run away.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to, I was like,
Yeah.
And so, I thanked her and then I was like, I got to go. And so I started walking out and then I kind of stopped myself and I was like, you know what? I need to kind of, I need to be with it and feel this.
Right.
Because I never feel this. I never do this. So I stayed on the outside just like looking at it. And then I just started to cry even more.
Oh my gosh.
And there was no particular story or anything.
No.
It was just like the energy and it was just a lot. And
wow, I'd probably like be a mess if if it made you cry like that.
Yeah.
I don't even think I could approach it.
Yeah, and then I always remember I was standing there just like looking up at the temple, and then another like younger girl like came up and just like she saw that I was crying like by myself.
Yeah.
And she just came up and held my hand.
Oh my gosh.
And didn't say anything.
She didn't say a word.
She didn't really say anything. She didn't need to. She was just like, she just wanted to be there to like support me or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And then once I stopped crying, she just like looked at me and was like, "You good?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she just like left.
Oh my God.
And I was like, "What?"
Whoa.
So that's definitely probably my most woo-woo moment. Was just like these like these random, like crying so much, and then these like how these connections kind of just happened.
Wow.
During that moment, like these random people that I'll never see again, probably.
That sounds amazing.
I think that girl was like English, so she's probably like in England somewhere. I don't know.
I love it. Well, that sounds amazing, honey. I'm so glad you got to have that experience.
Yeah.
So, all right, now we're going to move on to your Mike's Millennial Minute. I'd like to introduce this segment to everybody and have you come back intermittently and tell us just little tips about how to live, how you're living, what you're learning, and how you're living your life as good as you can. So what's your Mike's Millennial Minute to kick this off?
This is a simple thing that I found. Has to do with journaling. I never really was a big journaler or even just a writer. But as I was starting to kind of like just experiment, with different things that I've read about. And this one was a really simple thing to kind of help you like get more clarity on maybe things that you don't have answers to.
Right.
And all it is before you go to sleep, in your journal, you basically write down a request. Mm-hmm. So it could be just a simple question or even a big question. Mm-hmm. Like, what's my life purpose?
Oh my gosh.
Or, I don't know. It could be anything. It could be any question that...
How do I resolve this problem
exactly.
at work or whatever?
Yeah, like something that maybe you just don't know the answer to. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you haven't really thought about it enough,
mm-hmm.
So you write it down. Just start with like one question. Don't complicate it. And then once you write it down, you go to sleep. And basically, as you're sleeping, your subconscious will work on that question.
Right.
So then what you do is when you wake up, I recommend meditating, I mean, I'm sure everyone on this that listens to this this podcast is probably
open to meditating at least, or doing it.
Yeah. Meditate 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then right after you meditate, answer that question.
Right.
And
okay. Just like kind of write an answer.
Yeah, just look at that question again and write down whatever comes to your mind.
Interesting.
And it works. It's basically like it's the most clear you're ever going to be in the entire day.
Right.
Is right after you do that meditation, and then you can just write.
Okay.
And I've answered a lot of questions because of that.
And don't look at your Facebook or Instagram or anything before you meditate or before when you wake up first thing. That's what's so hard, right?
Yeah. That is like the biggest no-no. Like when you wake up,
do not look
no phone.
Yes.
And unless like, if your meditation app or something, that's okay. But remove all notifications.
Don't look at
remove all your notifications on social media. Don't look at your email. Just open up your meditation app, meditate.
Yes.
Look at your journal. Write it, answer that question, and then, get ready, all that stuff. And then once you leave the house and you're out in the day, then look at your phone.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a great piece of advice, Michael. Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast and for letting me interview you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
And we'll have you back to give us more of your Mike's Millennial Minutes.
Yeah, can't wait.
Great. Thanks, honey. Love you.
Love you too.
Well, that's it for this episode. So, who of you have millennials in your life? Talk to me about it. Let us know who are the special millennials in your life. I know I have a lot of them in my life. Send us a voice memo or an email to podcast@soundmindbodypodcast.com. And get in touch. We are on Instagram at soundmindbodypodcast, on Twitter at SheilaMelody1, or check us out on Facebook, Sound Mind Body Podcast, or on the web, soundmindbodypodcast.com. Thank you to our guest, Michael Melody. And thank you to our producer, Tim Edwards of the Inbound Podcasting Network. And leave us a review if you haven't already. It really helps people find us. Thanks for listening. I'm Sheila Melody. Join us next week as we explore, enlighten, and evolve.